Good afternoon, everyone. Till now, we discussed in meeting needs of patient under subtopic fluid electrolyte balance. In that, we discussed the fluid volume deficit, hypovolemic state, and hypervolemia, and acid base imbalances. And now, the treatment considerations and tips. What are the treatment considerations and tips to follow a low sodium diet and taking diuretics? What are the main, as in us we know about this, depending on the fluid limit outlined for your condition and prescribed by your healthcare provider. The following are strategies to help manage your daily fluid intake. First, we have to plan the amount of liquid we'll have during the day. How much will you drink to take your medications, and how much will you drink with your meals? In order to decide what works best for you, it is helpful to sit down and with a nutritionist or nurse and talk with your friends and family who may be able to support you by identifying preferred drinks and your drinking pattern. Who you will more easily be able to decide how to adjust to your fluid restriction. So you have to decide how much fluid I'll take per day and at what time I'll drink the fluid or any water, and nutritionist or nurse and talk with friends and family who may be able to support you. Okay, and after that, use small cups that can give the perception of a full glass. Okay, use small cups and use a designated container. Some people find it helpful to measure out their daily fluid allowance in one large container and drink only from there throughout the day. Okay, and maintain good oral care. So because of that only, the person may drink more water. Okay, if oral hygiene not there means the person may discomfort or an irritable to swallowing that water inside. And by brushing your teeth after meals and rinsing with alcohol free mouthwash and chewing sugarless gum or sucking on hard candy, you may be able to decrease dry mouth and adjust to drink. And avoid foods with high levels of sodium, salt. These types of food will increase your thirst. Okay, and avoid foods with high levels of sodium. The foods which are containing high levels of sodium, the foods should be avoided. And weigh yourself daily. That means weight gain. If weigh yourself daily means you have to check your weight daily. It is important to use the same scale around the same time each day to get the most accurate information and report any weight gain of 2 pounds or more in one day to your physician. And record the fluid intake. How much fluid you intake, that must be recorded. And it is a good idea to write this information on your tracking log or calendar. Okay, that you are not taking in more fluids than expected, so you're taking enough fluid to drink. And what is the main in this chapter? There is a subtopic, blood transfusion. What is the blood transfusion? The transfusion of the whole blood or its components such as blood cells or plasma from one person to the another person is known as blood transfusion. It is the transfusion of whole blood or its components such as blood cells and plasma from one person to another person. And what is the main purpose of this? To replace blood volume and blood pressure during hemorrhage. To replace blood volume and blood pressure and during hemorrhage. Hemorrhage means bleeding, and hemoptysis, hematemesis, and antepartum, postpartum hemorrhages and operations, etc., and trauma or burns. And what is the main purpose of this blood transfusion? The person may suffer with antepartum hemorrhage. Means antepartum hemorrhage, the bleeding occurs in antenatal period. Antenatal period means during pregnancy. Okay, during pregnancy, the lifetime of pregnancy, there may be bleeding occurs, that is known as antepartum hemorrhage. And postpartum hemorrhage means after delivery the person may gone to the bleeding, postpartum hemorrhage. Okay, and after that any cesarean operations, in the time also there may be so much of blood loss. So in that conditions the person may transfuse the blood. And after that any trauma, any accidents occurs means the person may lose so much of blood volume in that accidents. So in that cases also we refer this blood transfusion and burns. And to increase the oxygen carrying capacity or hemoglobin level in cases of severe anemia which are not corrected by the administrations of vitamins and iron therapy. Okay, or to increase the oxygen carrying capacity or hemoglobin level in cases of severe anemia also, to raise the HP level we have to give blood transfusion. And to provide antibodies to those persons who are sick and having lowered immunity, and to replace the blood with hemolytic agents with fresh blood, and to improve the leukocyte count in blood as in egg granulocytosis, to combat infection in leukopenia, and to provide and to treat deficiency of plasma proteins, clotting factors or hemophilic globulin. These are the main purposes of blood transfusion. Okay, blood transfusion involves two procedures, that is collection of blood from donor and administration of blood to the recipient. Okay, collection of blood from the donor and administration of blood to the recipient. What is the main purpose? To restore blood volume and blood pressure during hemorrhage, and to increase the oxygen carrying capacity, and to provide antibodies and leukocytes, and to correct or treat deficiencies of plasma proteins and clotting factors, and to combat infection in patients with leukopenia, and to replace the blood with hemolytic agents, and to improve the leukocyte count. And what are the general instructions for this? Blood should be fresh. What are the components of blood? Each unit of blood is tested for evidence of hepatitis B. Every blood packet should be tested for evidence of hepatitis B and hepatitis C, sexually transmitted diseases, and human immunodeficiency syndrome, viruses, and syphilis. Because it is more important, because if a person may suffer with any syphilis or any hepatitis, the person's blood, if we take that person's blood and it is injected into the another person, that may harmful. So we have to check before itself only. And the blood is then processed into subcomponents. What are they? Whole blood, packed cell volume, fresh frozen plasma, and platelets, and cryoprecipitate. And whole blood is unseparated blood containing an anticoagulant preservative solution. We have to preserve that in anticoagulant solution, because anticoagulants means without if the blood comes out from the person's body, the blood get coagulated. Okay, the clumping formation will be there and coagulation will be there. Because of that only we have to preserve the blood with anticoagulant solution. And 1 unit of whole blood contains 450 ml of donor blood and 50 ml of anticoagulant preservative solution. And hemoglobin approximately 20% of 20 grams, and hematocrit 35% to 45%, and no functional platelets. Okay, and this is about that components of blood. In that blood, 1 unit of whole blood contains 450 ml of blood and 50 ml of anticoagulative preservative solution. And after that, stored between +2 and +6 degrees centigrade in a blood bank refrigerator. and transfusion should be started within 30 minutes of removal from the refrigerator and completed within 4 hours of commencement, because changes in the composition may occur due to red cell metabolism. Okay, and after that, packed red cells are cells that are spun down and concentrated. 1 unit of packed red cells is approximately 330 ml and has a hematocrit of 50 to 70%, and they are stored in a saline adenine glucose mannitol solution to increase their shelf life to 5 weeks at 2 to 6 degrees centigrade. And after that, cryoprecipitate. What is cryoprecipitate? It is a supernatant precipitate of fresh frozen plasma and is rich in factor 8 and fibrinogen, and it is stored at 30 degrees centigrade with a 2 years shelf life and indicated in low fibrinogen states or in cases of factor 8 deficiency. And pooled units containing 3 to 6 grams fibrinogen in 200 to 500 ml raises the fibrinogen level by approximately 1 gram per liter. Must be infused within 6 hours. We must infuse it within 6 hours. And you know about blood grouping and cross matching. What is blood grouping? How many blood groups are there? A, B, O. A positive, B positive, A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, O negative, O positive, and AB positive and AB negative. There are 4 groups are there: A, B, O, and AB. Each person has one of the following blood types: AB, AB, or O. O can be given to anyone but can only receive O. Okay, and the person may have. A person may have blood group O. The person may given to anyone but can only receive only from O group only. And AB can receive any type of blood, can only be given to the AB only. And also every person's blood is either Rh positive or Rh negative, either by positive or negative. And allogenic blood transfusion, autosonic, and exchange blood transfusion. What is allogenic? Allogenic means someone else blood, and autosonic means own blood itself only transmitted. And exchange blood transfusion, it is may seen in dialysis patients. Okay, and what are the main general instructions? Selection of a donor and collection, storage, and transportation of the blood and administration of blood to the recipient. It is very careful. Okay, and after that, how to selection of a donor? HP level must be about 12 grams percentage, and donor should be disqualified who have history of recent dental surgery or major surgery, or the person may receive of blood or blood component and immunization. The persons may not be give blood. Okay, donate the blood. The donor should be disqualified who have history of any surgeries and dental surgeries and receipt of blood or blood component, immunization, etc. And explain the procedure to the donor. And blood should not be collected empty stomach. We should not collect the blood from the empty stomach. Should not be dehydrated also. So the person may hydrated. If that person only, we donate that blood. And following the donation, donor should be offered sweetened drink and asked to take rest at least for 1 to 2 hours to prevent faint. Okay, to prevent faint, the person may take rest at least 1 to 2 hours. And before leaving the collection center, donor must be observed for any giddiness and color changes. We have to observe the donor and check vital signs frequently. Okay, pulse rate, breathing rate, we have to check. This is more. Okay, and collection, storage, and transportation of blood. How to collect and storage and transportation of blood. Donor's blood immediately after it is withdrawn should be placed in the refrigerator. After we should withdrawn the blood, we should put the blood in the refrigerator. And stored blood should be inspected daily and before use for evidence of hemolysis or bacterial contamination. And the transportation of blood in the hospital should be done within 30 minutes after it is taken from the place of storage. If the blood is kept at room temperature, the temperature of blood will rise above 10 degrees Celsius in 30 minutes. If blood is not used, it should be returned to the refrigerator. Okay, if the blood is not used, it should be returned to the refrigerator within half an hour. And the blood, we will withdraw the blood from the donor. The blood will be kept at room temperature and the temperature blood will rise above 10 degrees Celsius in 30 minutes. And after that, if the blood is not used at refrigerator, we should be turned it into the refrigerator within half an hour. When blood is transported to distant place, use pre-cooled insulated bags to keep the temperature of blood below 10 degrees. We should provide any pre-cooled insulated bags, provide and transported the blood to another place. And how to administration of the blood to the recipient. When sending the recipient's blood sample for grouping and cross matching, it must be clearly labeled with name. We have to send the blood packet in the blood bank to the any laboratory for testing purpose, any cross matching purpose. We have to label with name, IP number and bed number and ward number. Fresh sample taken within 4 hours and should be used for typing and cross matching. Okay, within 4 hours we have to take fresh sample from the donor and it should be sent to the typing and cross matching. And a request form should accompany with blood sample and form should contain name, IP number, bed number, ward number, name of the physician and exact amount of blood and component required and diagnosis of the patient, any blood transfusion given earlier, if so, the group and type of blood administered, any reaction observed. Okay, we are the nurses, so we have to find if any reactions observed previously, so we have to take that history from that patient. And after that, it is essential that the physician writes all orders for typing, cross matching and administration of whole blood and blood products. And prior to administration of blood, two registered nurse or a physician and a registered nurse should verify all informations on the report of the cross match, unit label and the patient's identifications. If there is any discrepancies, the unit should be returned to the blood bank with remarks. And whole blood or blood should be transfused through an appropriate sterile transfusion set containing a filter. And transfusion set should be free from air and use 18 gauge needle for transfusion. We must use 18 gauge needle for transfusion and no medications or other additives should be given the same IV route or should not be mixed with blood. Okay. And how to administer the blood to the recipient. Keep the patient warm and comfortable if necessary and offer bedpan before starting the procedure and as necessary. Okay, offer bedpan. We have to offer the bedpan and keep the patient warm and comfortable if necessary. And record the amount of blood, type, group, rate of flow and any reaction and any medication administered. We have to record that one. Okay, we take the history from the donor. And if IV infusion is to be given before, after or during the transfusion, always use the normal saline. We have to use in one hand normal saline, administer normal saline, in another hand we have to administer the blood transfusion. Okay. And prior to transfusion, record the vital signs of the patient and to provide the baseline for further observation. And adjust the rate of flow to 5 to 10 ml per minute during the first 30 minutes of transfusion to detect any complications as early as possible. Allow the blood to remain at room temperature prior to administration of blood. and watch for any complications throughout the procedure. We have to watch for any complications throughout the procedure. Okay, and what are the types of blood transfusion reactions? Acute hemolytic transfusion reaction and delayed hemolytic transfusion reaction, pyrogenic reactions and allergic reactions and anaphylactic reactions, and circulatory overload, transmission of infectious diseases. Okay, these are the main complications of blood transfusions. In acute hemolytic transfusion reaction, that means develops during the first 5 to 15 minutes. If the reaction occurs in that patient in 5 to 15 minutes, in hemolytic transfusion reaction, circulating RBCs are ruptured with release of hemoglobin. And causes of acute hemolytic reaction. What are the causes of acute hemolytic reaction? ABO incompatibility or RH incompatibility. RH incompatibility means minus or plus, negative or positive in that, and improper storage of blood and uncontrolled refrigeration of blood resulting in freezing, and storage beyond 21 days limit, and warming of blood above 40 degrees Celsius, and exposure of blood to dextrose solutions. Okay, and after that, what are the clinical features we observed in this acute hemolytic transfusion reaction? Onset of fever, chills, headache, dyspnea, cyanosis, chest pain, nausea, vomiting, and increased heart rate and respiratory rate, hemoglobinuria, and these are the main symptoms, signs and symptoms we observe in patient. As a nurse, we have to examine the patient while transfusion ongoing. Okay, and what is the nursing management? Closely observe the patient for the first 10 minutes of the transfusion. Since these reactions occur very rapidly, the rate of flow should be minimal. So if the reaction occur means we have to, the rate of the fluid we should be minimized, and discontinue the transfusion immediately, and when reaction is assessed, once call the doctor and inform the physician and implement the treatment as prescribed by the physician, and inform the laboratory to do cross matching and grouping of the blood, and maintain IV infusion with 5% glucose or saline using a new IV set. And after that, monitor vital sign every 15 minutes to assess shock and collapse, and record fluid intake and output to assess the kidney function. And oxygen inhalation is given to relieve dyspnea. Okay, oxygen inhalation is given to relieve dyspnea. This is about how complications of blood transfusion in that acute hemolytic transfusion reactions. And after that, medical management. What is medical management? Large quantities of fluid we have to administer to the patient, and mannitol, heparinization, oxygen and adrenaline, sedation, blood transfusion and hemodialysis. Delayed hemolytic transfusion reaction occurs due to incompatibility of RBC antigens other than ABO group, and it develops days to weeks after transfusion, and it is featured by persistent decrease in HB level and low grade fever. And pyogenic reactions, we observe fever, chills, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, back pain. We have to observe these all in pyogenic reactions. Anaphylactic reactions are hypersensitivity reactions. This may cause any skin rashes to the client, or dyspnea, cyanosis occur, tachypnea, tachycardia, hypotension and collapse. Immediately transfusion is stopped and informed to physician, and resuscitative measures are started. And monitor the vital signs every 15 minutes until patient recovers. And after that, complications of blood transfusion: circulatory overload, hyperkalemia, hypocalcemia, hemocytosis, and infiltration and hematoma. Thrombophlebitis. Thrombophlebitis means there may be clot occurs in the veins, and pulmonary embolism. Okay, this is about the Hyperkalemia, hypocalcemia, these are also complications. Hypokalemia means increased potassium levels and hypocalcemia means decreased calcium levels in the blood, hemosiderosis, iron overload. And what is the nursing management for this? Stop the transfusion immediately and notify the patient and connect the IV line with 0.9% of normal saline and be with the client and observe the signs and symptoms and monitor the vital signs till they become stable. And get ready with the emergency drugs such as vasopressors, antihistamines, steroids and fluids. And prepare for cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR and obtain a urine specimen and send to the laboratory. Document the reactions and method carry out. Okay, and these are about the complications of blood transfusion and its nursing management. Okay. Conclusion: the main fluid in the body is water and 60% of the total body weight is water, and the water is distributed in three main compartments separated from each other by cell membranes, and the water is distributed in three main compartments and it is separated by each other with a cell membrane. Okay, and the intracellular compartment is the area within the cell, and the intracellular which is present inside the cell, and the extracellular compartment consists of the interstitial area between and around cells, and the inside of the blood vessels, plasma and electrolytes are the chemicals dissolved in the body fluids. The electrolytes are the chemicals which are dissolved in the body fluid. And the distribution has important consequences of the ultimate balance of fluids, and fluid and electrolyte disorders are volume related, compositional or both. And the diagnosis and therapy focuses on measurements such as blood pressure, pulse, central venous pressure, serum electrolyte values. Already we discussed about that electrolyte values and its molecular weights, and arterial blood gas, partial pressures and pH. These are, however, gross indicators of what are really important: normal cellular function and satisfactory. And after that, if not optimal metabolic status, normal compensatory, extreme however composition. Example: electrolyte content is sacrificed to ensure adequate volume. And the volumes of importance are blood, plasma, interstitial fluid and extracellular fluid, intracellular fluid. Thus mechanisms that initially act to maintain oxygen delivery at the cellular level ultimately can result in hyperosmolar or hypoosmolar states that may be life threatening. And the proper analysis of fluid or electrolyte problems is a three-dimensional approach, and this approach involves assessing the total mass or total body stores of each electrolyte and the rate of electrolyte movement in and out of the body, and the movement of each electrolyte in and out of each compartment, changes in body composition. Okay, and after that, changes in body composition and alterations in circulation of electrolyte concentrations and common in critically ill patients, and occur in most patients admitted to the intensive care unit during their hospital stay. And abnormal electrolyte concentrations reflect altered metabolic status, and the most common form of monitoring composition of the body fluids is measuring electrolyte concentrations in fluids, particularly serum. Okay, and this is the conclusion about this topic. Until now we discuss about the fluid electrolyte balance, introduction, and what are the factors affecting fluid electrolyte balance. What are the factors affecting the fluid electrolyte balance? What are the factors? Diffusion, osmosis, hydrostatic pressure, and dialysis, filtration, selective permeability of membranes. And its physiology of body fluids, and daily water input is 2400 to 3000 ml of water through food and fluid drinks and as metabolic water. And what are the sources of water intake? Water in food and metabolism and drinking 1.5 additional liters. Okay, and after that, as fluid drinks, as a fluid, we must take water, tea, coffee, milk, and soup. And after that, we see regulation of fluids and electrolytes or homeostatic mechanism. That is, the body is equipped with remarkable homeostatic mechanisms to keep the composition and volume of body within narrow limits of normal. And the organs involved in this homeostatic mechanism or regulation of fluid and electrolytes include hypothalamus, and these all are included in the mechanism and regulation of fluids and electrolytes. What are all? Hypothalamus, pituitary gland and adrenal gland, kidney, GI tract, parathyroid gland, heart and blood vessels and lungs, etc. Okay, and after that, fluid imbalances. In fluid imbalances, fluid volume deficit and fluid volume excess. In fluid volume deficit, hypovolemia, and fluid volume excess, hyperolemia. Okay, and its characteristics we seen and nursing interventions. And after that, what are the main as a nurse, we have to assess the presence or worsening of the fluid volume excess or deficit and encourage the client to take sodium restricted diet if prescribed by doctors, and teach client how to take in their diet and low sodium food. Okay, and after that, encourage rest period and lying down favors diuresis of edema fluid, and teach self monitoring of aid and intake and output measurements of clients. And if dyspnea, orthopnea, it may be present, we must be take care of that and assess the client every hourly. And what are the electrolytes which are present in this? Potassium, calcium, magnesium and hydrogen ions, and sodium and chloride, bicarbonates, phosphate, and these are the ions which are these are the electrolytes which are responsible for this body stability. And the electrolytes, the main functions of electrolytes are water distribution and osmolality, and regulation of acid base balance, and transmission of nerve impulses and neuromuscular activity, and these are helpful for contraction of muscles and clotting of blood and enzyme reaction. And what are the main importance of electrolytes? Electrolytes plays a vital role in maintaining homeostasis within the body, and we see in sodium, potassium and chloride. If electrolyte imbalances in sodium, in the sodium levels decreases, the condition may hyponatremia. Hyponatremia means increased the levels of sodium in blood. And after that, potassium, hypokalemia, decrease the levels of potassium levels in blood, and hypokalemia increase the levels of potassium levels in blood, and hypocalcemia decrease the calcium levels. Okay, and hypercalcemia increase calcium levels in blood. Okay, this is about the electrolytes and electrolyte imbalances. And after that, acid base balances. In this, acidity and alkalinity. What is acidosis and alkalosis? The too much acid which are present in the blood, that is known as there may be decrease in blood pH, acidosis. In alkalosis, too much base which is present in the blood, resulting in an increase in the blood pH. Okay, this is about the acid imbalances. There are 4 types are there: respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis, metabolic acidosis and metabolic alkalosis. And what is respiratory acidosis? There may be an increased arterial carbon dioxide and increased hydrogen ion concentration. In respiratory alkalosis, decreased hydrogen ion concentration and decreased carbonic acid concentration. And in metabolic acidosis, there may be rise in hydrogen ion concentration in the extracellular fluid caused by increase in hydrogen ion levels or a decrease in bicarbonate levels. Its causes are starvation, diabetic ketoacidosis and renal failure, shock, diarrhea. and they are manifested by headache, lethargy, confusion, tachypnea, and deep respiration, abnormal cramps, and flushed skin. And metabolic acidosis, there may be an increased level of bicarbonate, and there may be a decrease of hydrogen ion carbonates ions. This is about the acid base imbalances. And after that, blood transfusion, the transfusion of whole blood or its components such as blood cells and plasma from one person to another person, and its purpose, general instructions of a nurse, and its preparation of a client, and what are the complications, incompatibility, pyrogenic reactions, allergic reactions, circulatory overload, and transmission of infectious diseases. Okay, these are the main responsible for this blood transfusion complications. And what are the treatment consideration and tips are to a nurse should plan out the amount of liquid we'll have during the day, and use small cups, and use a designated container, and maintain good oral care, and avoid foods with high levels of sodium, salt, and weigh yourself daily and record the fluid intake. And this is about the fluid electrolyte balances. Thank you everyone.